Hoping to see the spectacular partial solar eclipse, but let's go ahead and roll the videotape and you get an idea of what we experienced out there today. Of course, yesterday in the forecast, we were calling for a very good possibility of showers and thunderstorms, and sure enough, when we got out to the Orlando Science Center this afternoon, the clouds did not disappoint us. They were there. As a matter of fact, they weren't there, or they were there just before 2:39 when the actual eclipse was supposed to start. And as you can see from the reaction on the young children, many hundreds of them out there today, and the Science Center for the first time was packed out there. A lot of people turning out, and several members from the Central Florida Astronomical Society turning out, and that was the view of the sky. Several telescopes to look through, and of course a lot of safe ways to look at the eclipse by poking a pinhole in a cardboard, but you can see that's what happened eventually as it started to rain and the thunderstorms were around the area. But it was different in other parts of the world. As you saw at the top of the newscast, there was a total eclipse, and this is the view from out in Hawaii earlier today. Thousands of people from all over the world really went out to Hawaii to witness this event. At the top of Mauna Kea, which we reported yesterday, they had quite a few clouds, some early morning haze, so they didn't get that great of a view. The best view was actually out on the water in a boat. And you can see that was a little bit earlier on. This was right before dawn, so they actually had two sunrises today. As the sun came out, got dim, the sun came back out again. Here we are in Mexico, and this is probably the most spectacular view as far as I'm concerned. This is out of Mexico, crystal clear, and that was the total eclipse of the sun, only visible in Mexico, down in Baja, the southern part of Baja, California, and out in Hawaii. But a rare event that won't occur again until the year 2132. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see that here in Central Florida. We are working on getting some videotape from Brevard County. Apparently in other parts of Central Florida where there wasn't clouds, they had a little better view. So we'll try to get that in shortly here during our weathercast maybe.
A few breaks in the clouds in some spots apparently.
Yeah, so it was visible in some spots in Central Florida.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Well, if you're wondering what kind of scientific experiments were conducted during that eclipse, you can watch Prime Time Live tonight on Channel 9. Judd Rose will have a special report from the Mauna Kea Observatory in Hawaii, and that's Prime Time Live tonight at 10 o'clock right here on Channel 9.
Don't want to miss that. That may be the closest we get to the eclipse.
That'll be some great video.
NASA managers gathered at the Kennedy Space Center today not to look at the eclipse, but to plan the next shuttle launch. The space agency had planned to bring the shuttle back home to the Cape.
But now some managers are worried the program might not be ready for regular Florida.
Hi, I'm Amy, and welcome to the solar eclipse.
Well, this is one of a lifetime chance, so.
Well, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The next one is probably going to be in the year 2000 sometime.
And that's too long to wait, isn't it?
Yeah. That's why we're going to see it now.
I heard about it, and my mom said, we're going to go to the Science Center and see it. And I said, all right, let's go, let's go. And she said it was getting really packed, so let's just move and go ahead. And I thought, well, if everybody's going to be there, why not us?
And here, if I'm very much mistaken, comes the eclipse.
Yes, you are very much mistaken. Here it comes. Peter?
Yes, I can't see anyone stopping it now. No, it's all over by the shouting.
The sands of time must surely be drawing to a close for this plucky solar... Oh! Oh!
Rain.
Well, what a shame. The rain is beginning to come down now here at Lord.
Light's going too.
Yes, going really quite fast.
By Jove, yes, it's getting quite murky up here now.
You can hardly see a glass in front of your face.
What a shame.
It's a matter of Central Florida weather is Central Florida weather. We're trying our best. We're also going to try and get an image, if we can, of totality from Mexico City. And we're working on that right now. But right now, everyone look at those clouds and say, go away, go away.
That was the best eclipse I ever seen. Well, maybe next time, but that's it from the Science Center.
Enough tonight to cause the roosters to crow in the middle of the day or the cattle to head for the barn, but Trina Robinson was there and she can fill us in.
Looking into the afternoon sky, it's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's a solar eclipse. And despite grim forecasts that cloud cover would only lend a small glimpse of the eclipse, many were pleased with the bits they saw.
So rare to be in the right place at the right time to see one. It's exciting.
That's a pretty good shot right there.
It's said that you should never look into the sky with the naked eye when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun. But some were so enchanted by the solar eclipse, they braved it bare-eyed.
I thought it was neat. You know, it wasn't really what I was expecting, but see, like right now, you could get a much better view of it.
It's dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Well, it wasn't that awful, but some people worried about their critter's eyes. A dog or a cat could look into the sky, and why? They don't have fancy telescopes or high-tech lenses to protect their eyes, or even the option to stay inside. Well, at least one scientific type says, never fear, your pet's eyes will probably be spared.
I don't think there will be any problem because they wouldn't normally look at the sun. And to tell you the truth, if you glanced at it quickly, momentarily, you might be okay, being it's a hazy day like it is.
Well, for all you dogs, cats, bats, rats, and humans, if you miss this one, there'll be another, but not until the year 2017. Trina Robinson, Florida's 2 News, Daytona Beach.
And by gum, we plan to be around in 2017, don't we?
It'll be close for me, but...
You didn't rush home for little glasses on your cats or anything, did you? Just in case.
No, but they were wearing visors.
Good, well, as long as they use the proper precautions.
That's what those creatures were.
Those are the ones.
Gee, I wish I could have improved things for you today so you could see everything out there, but...
It looked like Volusia got a good view.
Yeah, they did. A few small, isolated areas, just about everybody else getting rainfall and cloudy.
Today you have quite a wait for the next one. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Well, we were only supposed to get a partial eclipse in Central Florida, and we almost missed that because of heavy cloud cover in many areas. In Orlando, the sun did poke through in the final hour of the local eclipse, which was all over at 4:51. Now, the place to be was Hawaii, where the eclipse was total, and where the skies cleared in time to view the celestial event in all its glory. At 7:30 a.m., the eclipse was full there, sending early morning birds back to their nests, thinking the day was already over. The eclipse was also total over Mexico's Baja Peninsula, and it had the longest duration there, a full 7 minutes. In Hawaii, it lasted only 4 minutes, but even that duration will not be exceeded for another 150 years. Along with millions around the world, Channel 6 reporter Pat Michaels tells us plenty of Central Floridians were looking for an eyeful, too.
It's 3:30 at the Orlando Science Center. It was supposed to be prime-time solar eclipse viewing, but instead people stampeded inside. The telescopes were rolled to safety. Hundreds stood shoulder to shoulder in the lobby. That is until the science directors took charge.
Screaming to keep those people happy. No, they say eclipse, eclipse. We're coming.
3:40, the peak of the eclipse. Rain still falling. Crowds of people broke off to find other projects to keep their minds occupied.
What's the backup plan? Walk around. Just kind of, we were waiting for the planetarium show.
But those who couldn't keep their minds off the solar eclipse crammed into the auditorium for a type of rain ticket show. Video coming in from other parts of the country.
And we're going to give you a bit of a program on what eclipses are like, some images of previous ones.
Finally, 3:50, and most everyone gave up on this solar eclipse. This is quite a solar eclipse, isn't it?
Quite. If the clouds were gone, I'm sure we'd see a lovely eclipse.
I wanted to see the solar eclipse, and look what's happened here.
I know, it's raining. I guess we're going to miss an eclipse today.
Well, if you're disappointed you missed this solar eclipse, you've got quite a while to wait. The next one's going to be in the year 2017. You know when we're going to have the next solar eclipse?
I don't know.
When is it going to be?
When I'm 36.
Well, so much for the Florida liquid sunshine, or in this case, liquid solar eclipse. I'm Pat Michaels, Channel 6 News.
And again, later, the sun did come out briefly enough to see that eclipse. Scientists from several research centers in Florida, including FIT and Melbourne, had hoped to launch a 12-foot research rocket during the eclipse. The launch was expected to take place from a small, remote village on the coast of Mexico. We still have no word on whether everything there went as planned.
More earthly concerns are causing trouble for a Central Florida restaurant owner.
As the moon passed between the sun and the earth. This is what it looked like in Hawaii. Here in Orlando, though, clouds and rain ruined the view of what would have been a partial eclipse for us. Hundreds of people turned out at the Science Center in hopes of seeing that rare event, but they missed it. And it won't happen again until the year 2132. Won't happen again as intensely as this one.
Right, or duration.
Yeah.
The duration and the totality are the things, the criteria by which it's measured. I understand that some of the folks over in the East Coast got a better view because the cloud cover wasn't as extensive as it was here in the inland areas, and also even up in Deltona, a better view. But I personally found it as exciting as Kohoutek.
Or harmonic convergence, maybe?
Yeah, and I want to show you what it did to the satellite picture. You're not going to believe it. Well, sure you will, because I'm making it up. Why not believe it? Let's talk about our stats for today, because the eclipse...
for the next quarter of a century. There was a time when the moon blocking out the light of the sun was taken as a sign of evil. Crops would go bad, milk turned sour, bad luck to follow. We don't know about the crops and the milk, but there was bad luck of the worst kind for many eclipse watchers today, where the watching was supposed to be best. Hawaii. Here's ABC's Ken Kashiwahara.
It was 7:28 here this morning when the moon and sun converged, producing a blue halo, the corona, then a burst of sunlight, the diamond ring. This was the view from 13,000-foot Mauna Kea. But for the tens of thousands of spectators at sea level in Hawaii, their worst fears surfaced early. Dark clouds threatening to block the show they had waited years to see.
Cosmic crapshoot. You come 6,000 miles to see something, and, you know, maybe you'll see it and maybe you won't.
The odds had looked good. Sunny more than 90% of the year in this part of Hawaii. Ken Brescher, a Boston University scientist, had given up a chance to participate in a solar experiment to be with his children during their first total eclipse.
Well, what do you see, Ken?
Nothing. There's too little sun.
The clouds did break up briefly, revealing a partial eclipse, sending spectators scrambling for their telescopes and cameras.
Come on, come on.
Hey, let's hear it.
The excitement was only temporary. The clouds refused to move, no matter what some tried to do about it. As the total eclipse approached, as day turned into 4 minutes of night with the sun and moon still out of sight, some resigned themselves to looking 26 years ahead.
Next one in the U.S., August 2017. Mark it on your calendar now.
Ken Brescher was clearly disappointed for his children.
I'm sorry, Danny. We'll go to another one.
And Olga and Bertram Koren, who saw one total eclipse in 1925, had hoped to round out their lives with a second.
I'm glad I saw the first one. At least I have that.
In the end, the thousands of spectators who had flown to the Big Island packed up and prepared to head home. Their feelings perhaps best summed up by one. The total eclipse was a total bust. Ken Kashiwahara, ABC News, Waikoloa, Hawaii.
Well, a lot of people did have a chance to see part of the eclipse today, and if you were in a narrow band stretching from Hawaii to Mexico to South America, it was the whole thing, the whole sun blocked out. But for millions of others, you've already had a hint, even a partial eclipse was quite a happening. Here's ABC's Gary Shepard.
In San Francisco, where the eclipse was 55%, people gathered on street corners to see it, using a variety of homemade contraptions. Everything from cereal boxes with a pinhole to welder's helmets, so they wouldn't damage their eyes. In Los Angeles, 69% of the sun was covered, and thousands gathered at the Griffith Park Observatory. Many wore special glasses or went inside where they could watch it on a television screen.
I think the next time that this eclipse will occur, I'll be about, hopefully if I make it, about 76 years old. So I figure I better get it in now.
Sun gazers in San Diego were especially inventive. They watched using a pan of water with a sheet of plastic wrap floating on top. The eclipse was 100% in La Paz, Mexico, about 1,000 miles south of San Diego. The sky was clear, and hundreds who gathered to watch cheered during the 6 minutes of darkness. Said one woman, "I wanted it to last forever." Gary Shepard, ABC News, Los Angeles.
In a moment, the other news. The Bush administration trying to decide.
But not if you can't see it. And for most people in the United States, that was the case today. Stand by. We're about to bring you the real thing. For most people in the United States, if you looked up in the sky, you saw only a partial eclipse. That's because the moon's shadow just skirted the southern edge of the U.S. mainland. And just being a little bit eclipsed, in this case, doesn't count. So Judd Rose went to Hawaii, where he's captured the real thing. But even there, it wasn't easy.
Oh, wait, there we go.
This is it.
Hey, come on.
It was supposed to be nature's most spectacular show, but the star never appeared.
This is something you can't stop or control. This is nature. It's beyond man's control. It's one of the few things in our high-tech society that is left that is beyond our ability to control.
And so it was on the Big Island of Hawaii, as a stubborn cloud cover obliterated the view of this morning's long-awaited solar eclipse. But the total eclipse wasn't a total flop. As thousands watched, day turned to night, right on schedule.
Ooh, look at this. It is an eerie feeling.
It's amazing. And hundreds of feet above the clouds, where powerful telescopes were aimed at the sun, there was a clear view of the heavenly spectacular.
That was
a real show. We were all privileged to be up here. That was 10 on a scale of 1 to 10.
The shadow of the moon, 139 miles wide, swooped in over the ocean, heading northeast, narrowly missing the nearby island of Maui, but plunging all of the Big Island into total darkness. Then it continued north, looped south across the Pacific, and next hit land in Baja, California. Heading south, the moon shadow cut across Mexico and brought night to the 22 million people of Mexico City, the most ever to see an eclipse in one place at one time. Next, the shadow swept southeast across Central America and finally Brazil, where the eclipsed sun slipped below the horizon. Its dark voyage had spanned more than 9,000 miles in just about 3.5 hours.
It's not supposed to get dark in the daytime. And when Mother Nature starts changing the rules of the game, there's something that raises what Hawaiians call chicken skin, those goosebumps that say this is something else.
This week, it seemed everyone wanted chicken skin. Up to 60,000 visitors descended on the Big Island to see the big event. Among them, Pat Mills, who began planning the trip more than 2 years ago, even though her husband wasn't so enthusiastic.
This was all my idea. This was something I wanted to do. I think as we're getting closer to it, he's really excited, though.
The Mills family arrived Monday from Pennsylvania. Also here were news crews from around the world. You could easily spot the so-called eclipsophiles. They were the ones out at dawn every day, choosing the best picture positions.
I don't think I have enough light out here right now.
But for the real eclipse experts, the best seat in the house was way up in the balcony. 14,000 feet up, to be exact, where on top of a dormant volcano, you'll find some of the world's most powerful telescopes. Dr. Donald Hall is director of the Mauna Kea Observatory.
There are eclipses somewhere in the world every year or two, but in general over ocean and over isolated areas where one can only take relatively small telescopes and not the most sophisticated equipment. So the eclipse shadow coming right over this observatory here, within 100 yards of where we're standing now, is a really unique once-in-a-lifetime event.
To take advantage of it, scientists from a half-dozen countries gathered to conduct some of the most detailed solar studies ever. This contraption is a radio telescope that rotates to follow the sun.
The surface of the telescope is shiny, so if we didn't cover it with this white plastic trash bag, we would take that 6,000-degree light from the sun and focus it onto our sensitive instruments. That's like frying an ant with a 30-foot magnifying glass. We would literally melt our instruments.
This huge telescope is being used to look at the solar chromosphere, the sun's atmosphere, to find out what makes its outer edge millions of degrees hotter than at the surface.
Could be done by little firecrackers that keep going pop, pop, pop. If they're small enough, you wouldn't notice them normally, but if we can home in on them and see them, individual little sparkles going off, little flickers in the corona, then that's what we can say. We'll know that that's what's happening.
Just when it looked like it couldn't be more perfect for eclipse viewing, another, less predictable act of nature got in the way. Last month's eruption of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines sent a steady stream of volcanic ash into the stratosphere, and the wind started blowing it east. By the 4th of July, it had reached Hawaii, which meant the cosmic equivalent of kicking a little dust in this eye in the sky.
It's bad news. We're not sure to what degree it will disturb our ability to measure the dust rings around the sun. But the particles from the volcano are not too different in size from the particles we're looking for.
Of course, scientists weren't the only ones looking for answers.
Big Island Eclipse Information Center.
The folks here fielded hundreds of calls every day this week. I gather you've heard some pretty stupid questions.
Well, yes, we have. Probably the top of the list was, is July 11th the best day to watch the eclipse?
Actually, many don't even know the most basic question. How does an eclipse happen?
The eclipse is where the sun meets the moon.
It's that simple. Well, almost. The sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, so in order to be blocked from our sight, it has to be exactly 400 times as far from the Earth as the moon is. That happens as often as once a month, but the moon is usually above or below the sun. For a total eclipse to occur, the moon has to be in a direct line between the sun and the Earth, casting a huge shadow on our planet. We asked Donald Hall, head of the Mauna Kea Observatory, what to look for as the moon blotted out the sun.
You see the diamond ring effect, where the last tip of the sun is lost behind the moon, and you see the brilliant diamond from the last tip of the sun and the surrounding ring of the corona. The disk of the sun there is almost exactly 1 million miles across. So the streamers you're seeing go out 500,000 miles or more.
Far below the observatory, the eclipse also offered a chance to test some more down-to-earth phenomena, the effect of sudden night on animals. These dolphins, in captivity at a local resort, seemed unbothered, but they were closely monitored at the height of the eclipse to see if they were affected. At sea, predators that usually come out only at night, like this eel, slithered out in the darkness only to be confused when daylight returned. And one astronomer tested a bunch of roosters to see if they'd be fooled by the false dawn.
We're expecting these guys, if they deliver properly, to crow at least 2, if not 3 times that morning. And if they don't, they're fried for lunch.
Warm up that frying pan. The roosters didn't crow at all. Apparently, they weren't confused by the eclipse, but by all the noisy helicopters overhead. What scientists learned from this and future eclipses could teach us more about the way the sun radiates the energy that is the main source of our heat and light. But it doesn't sound like a total eclipse is exactly a scientific gold mine.
There have been important results in the past. I'm not sure that today was a gold mine. It was certainly a pretty good load to get into, though.
And for those whose view was clouded, there's a silver lining. There will be another total eclipse over Hawaii in 2106, just 115 years from now. Until then, you'll just have to live with the sun vanishing the same old boring way it usually does.
Later on Nightline, the sun may have disappeared for a while today, but in fact, it's more active now than it's been in a decade. It's making garage doors go crazy, exposing airline passengers to more radiation, and brightening the northern lights. Ted Koppel looks at these extraordinary happenings tonight on Nightline.